All those in favor, opposed, and carried. And the delegation with us tonight is Tourism Burnaby. And the speakers are Nancy Small, the Executive Director, and Ed Jaskula, the Chair. Please, come on up. Welcome, Nancy and Ed. It's nice to see you here. Sure.
Well, I just wanted to thank Council again for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. Nancy's going to go through a presentation, and obviously everybody knows the history of Tourism Burnaby, but what a great few years tourism's had in Vancouver, Burnaby, and surrounding areas. And obviously we've taken great advantage of that, but Tourism Burnaby's this year is probably going to be hosting our largest event ever, and I think some people say it's the perfect size for us. Every city, every Burnaby hotel will be full for Taekwondo, and I know that you've all been made aware of that. But again, I just want to say thank you and welcome one of our new board members, Scott Johnson from the Holiday Inn.
Welcome.
So Nancy, if you want to start.
Sure. I'd also like to acknowledge Doug Spindler, who's also here in the, with the delegation as well, who's one of our board members. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present to you this evening. We're really pleased to share some updates with you. We've been here, the last time we were here was in May 2015. A lot has happened since then, and most of it, all of it actually, really good. So it's exciting to see and to hear. So as you know, our mandate is very clear and very simple. Tourism Burnaby is dedicated to increasing the number of visitors to our city. So that makes decisions, how we do things, what we do, very clear, and it actually is, it makes our lives somewhat simple because that's what we're doing, and hopefully that success is coming through. We're a destination marketing organization, DMO for short, and we're funded through the MRDT program, just in case anybody wasn't aware of how that worked. Our areas of focus, pretty simplistic: sport tourism through Sport Burnaby, meetings and conventions, so different things that would happen in Burnaby that we would support and create and attract. Also leisure travelers, so people who would be coming here for vacation. And then ultimately it's about enhancing Burnaby's visibility as a destination. Our board of directors, and just to kind of give you the lay of the land of how we work, we have a 7-person board of directors, and they lead and direct and approve our activity. And Ed is the chair, Councillor McDonnell is one of the directors, Doug is our secretary-treasurer, and we've got Scott behind us, Scott Johnson from the Holiday Inn Express, and Mike, Paul, and Linda are all directors. So we meet on a monthly basis, and we report back to the board as to what we're doing and what our activities are. And then the staff, and I want to acknowledge Jennifer Scott, who's also here, Senior Manager, Sport Burnaby. And Anna is not here, Amanda's not here, but the 3 staff that I have are probably I call them the best in the business. It's the dream team. They're absolutely phenomenal at what they do, and we work really well with a lot of the people here, actually, in this room. Just to kind of bring it back up to, before we get into Tourism Burnaby specifically, I wanted to talk a little bit about BC's tourism industry, because I think it's important to acknowledge the importance of the tourism industry right now within the BC economy. It's responsible for 132,000 jobs. That's a significant player. From what Destination BC says, that's the number 3 industry in British Columbia right now. So, and it's growing, quite frankly. So you can see the tax revenue very substantial. In 2015, the results were extremely positive. Basically, all of the metrics that we look at, from BC right down to Burnaby, which we'll talk about in a second, but everything was up. Visitor numbers, average daily room rate, hotel occupancy levels, and YVR passenger volumes. And you probably are aware that there were some, several new routes that were opened up at YVR, which also helps to increase the volume of people that are coming into our area. Tourism Burnaby, very proud of 2015. It was a record year for us again, and you may recall a year and a bit ago we were here saying that 2014 was a record year. We achieved almost $1 million in revenue. It's almost 40% increase over 2014. So that's a very good accomplishment for the team and for the board, and I think for Burnaby, actually. I'll just give a few highlights on some of the things that we did in 2015. We relaunched our destination website, and it really needed a refresh. We needed to be bolder. We needed to have more interesting graphic, because the website is really the first port of call for people when they're coming to Burnaby. They need to understand what it feels like to actually be here. So this was the relaunch of that website. And then, of course, we had a new entrant into the hotel family. The Element Hotel opened in February 2015. And that's been a phenomenal success. They've benefited from a lot of the good things that have been happening in this market. And they've had a really great run for the last year and a half since they've been open. Also in 2015, there were a large number of conferences in downtown Vancouver, and while we don't necessarily have a role in that per se, we benefit from that because it leads visitors right to Burnaby. We benefit from our central location as a center of Lower Mainland. Any conferences that are happening downtown, if people don't want to stay downtown or pay the rates that are being charged downtown, or if it's full, they're going to come right to Burnaby. We're the next port of call. So it was an exciting year for that. We'll see that again in 2016 as well. And of course, FIFA. Seems like a long time ago now, it was a year ago, but that also provided a really significant boost in the June-July period for the leisure travelers. Also here at Swangard, we had the Pacific Nations Cup, which happened in July and August. Very successful event that our team brought and worked with Rugby Canada on and worked with the team at Swangard Stadium. Very successful, and we hope to replicate that type of multi-team event at Swangard in the years to come. We also created a outdoor dining event at Deer Lake Park called Small Plates on the Lake, and we will be doing it again. We're very excited to do it again, bring it back at the end of August, so buy your tickets online. And of course, the Pat Quinn Classic was a reinvigoration, a rebrand of the Burnaby Minor Hockey Christmas Classic tournament, and we're very, very happy with the result, and you know, the experience that the athletes had, the experience that the people from out of town had, and the local athletes as well. It was a good success, and again, we want to even extend that success this year and build on what we did. And a few things we want to change, but we're very excited to come back again into that with that event at the Christmas time period. We updated some of our destination photography, and then we also collaborated with the City of Burnaby on a destination video as well. So 2015, in a summary, very successful, a lot of activity, and as we move into 2016 and beyond, there's a lot of good things that we can spring off of from the successes that we've had over the last couple of years, and years before that as well. So one of the things that continues to come up and will continue to come up is Burnaby Lake and how we use that asset, because it really is an asset within our community that we can use and leverage within the rowing, canoe, and kayak world. And lots of discussions happening on many different fronts here, but that's certainly going to be something as we move into planning for the future that will come up as an initiative that we want to continue to put a focus on. And then Taekwondo, the World Taekwondo Junior Championships happening in November of this year, where we're going to be welcoming people from over 100 countries, and we're hoping that there's going to be over 900 athletes that will come here, support staff, managers. It could be in the neighborhood of 1,500 to 1,800 people. Things are really starting to roll on that. The Taekwondo Federation is going to get the registration up in the next 2 weeks. They're focused on Rio right now, as you can probably imagine, but once kind of things move into August, I think it's going to be things are going to move fast and furiously. We had our first hotel booking from a team a couple of weeks ago, went into the Holiday Inn Express, Scott's Hotel, so that was a very exciting day. We wanted to ring a bell at our office, but didn't quite happen. And then from a sport perspective, I think it's important to understand kind of some of the key highlights that and some of the things that we're going to be focusing on as we move into the future. You'll see the picture in this slide. The picture behind is actually Fortius. Believe it or not, it doesn't look like it's Fortius, but they transformed that gym into a table tennis space. And they had the Pan American Championships there a couple of weeks ago. Very successful, people coming in from all across, obviously Pan America. So really exciting for us to host that. And then, of course, rugby, soccer, Quidditch, all of the usual suspects. And, of course, we slide Taekwondo in there because even though Taekwondo will be an event in November, which will be a big event, there will be other ongoing events that will happen, we hope, resulting from that one. And then from a Burnaby meetings and conventions perspective, that continues to be a focus and will continue to be a focus. Canada 150 in 2017, the birthday of Canada, is something that we're trying to figure out how to program and what that's going to look like for Tourism Burnaby, if anything. And similar with Burnaby 125, and of course the Art Gallery also celebrates a big anniversary in 2017. So there's some things happening in 2017 that we'll want to leverage, both in the local market and also to try to drive visitation to Burnaby. And then collaboration. We're at the point now where we need to renew, refresh, and redo our 5-year strategic plan. Given where we are right now and the increased resources that Tourism Burnaby is seeing, there's a real need to create a 5-year plan that looks to where we want to get to in the future and how we're going to get to. And a very important part of that is a lot of the people sitting around this table right now. We couldn't have gotten to where we are right now without the support of this group, and we really will need to, work on that collaboratively as we move into the future. So I'm going to be putting together a framework on that and how to engage and how I think can be engaged, and obviously I'll work with the key people that we need to. But that is something that we would look to create over the next 4 to 6 months or so. That's it. Thank you. And does anybody have any questions?
Well, let me first offer an opportunity to Councillor McDonnell. He's our representative on the board. Would you like to make a comment, Councillor McDonnell?
Well, I think that she didn't praise her staff enough, because if she ever wants to get rid of them, we're going to make some openings in the city of Burnaby, because that's the type of staff you want, the work they do in that. But it's, we've been trying to grow. We know what our niche is for the tourism and that's why we concentrated on our sports tourism primarily, but that's not the only thing. They're looking forward to, if we get our new events hall built, there's a real area that we can capitalize on that, because if we can get something that seats in around the 1,500 mark, then we can draw a lot of these smaller conventions, because they don't like going to Vancouver because of the cost, and the facilities are so big and the rents are so high. So there's an opportunity there, and as we move down the road as a city and make our final decision where and what it'll look like in that, then we can, Tourism Burnaby, be able to then start planning, forecasting what they would like to get here, and expanding not only the sports but conventions, more emphasis on conventions too, of the smaller type and that. So we have a good group of directors, and they all have equal voice, and we participate pretty good on it. So it's a benefit to our hotels when we have these come in, because they're filling spaces, especially like with the Taekwondo in November. Actually, that period they're here is the slowest period of the whole year for hotel rooms, believe it or not. It's too early for the Christmas people to come in, and it's just sort of that dead period there, which is going to be a big boom. But not only that, is the money that those tourists will spend in the city as they come here and that. And also, as it's going to be webcast, and that will be broadcast over to over 100 countries in the world. So I like to look at it as the mini expo that we had here in '86 that really put Burnaby on the map, I think, that make us stand out for the great city that we are and what we've got to offer. Thank you, Your Worship.
Councillor Balco.
Thanks, Your Worship. Thanks very much for the presentation. I've just got a question for the Executive Director. MRDT? I don't know.
Now you're really going to test me, is that what?
I got no idea.
MRDT.
I'm guessing T is tax.
Yeah, it's the municipal, oh God, what is it? Municipal Regional District Tax. Yes? Thank you, Doug. Yeah.
Good.
Hotel tax.
Oh, room tax?
Yeah.
Is that the official name for the hotel tax?
Yes, that's the provincially administered, well, not administered, but provincially by, like, the law that came in several years ago.
Marmalade jam.
That allowed the hotels and people like Tourism Burnaby to have a user agreement with the City of Burnaby where we administer the funds on behalf of the City of Burnaby.
Great, thanks. And just following up on that one and maybe some of the comments that Councillor McDonnell made, and I'd be remiss without having the expertise of the chair, Mr. Jaskula here. There's been a lot of discussion globally, but it's come now regionally in regards to a member of the sharing economy called Airbnb, and you were talking about people that come to Vancouver for conventions and they might find it too expensive to stay there, so they stay here. And so I'm wondering if Mr. Jaskula has any comments in regards to the impact that Airbnb might be having, and if it isn't time that we somehow start looking at perhaps putting the MRDT on identified Airbnb hosts within the region, not just Burnaby, but within the region. I'm wondering if you have any comments on that.
Obviously a big subject that's out there in the media as well. It's almost an underground economy. When you go back in history and you look at bed and breakfast who legitimately become a member of the tourism community, get business licenses, pay taxes, etc. This has been around for years, and so this doesn't mean that the people that are renting out a room in their house, or for that matter renting their house out, there are people that are making an industry out of this, and you're hearing numbers out there that 20%, 30% of high-rises could very well be Airbnbs, people owning 10, 12, 15 units, creating a business out of this. And that underground economy affects us all. And on the tourism side, the numbers all over the map, and depending on whichever city it is. But cities and municipalities throughout the West Coast particularly are experiencing right now a very high trend in tourism. Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle, Portland, ourselves, etc. Not so much shared in the interior of the United States and Canada, but West Coast again, lots of popular cities there. But this underground economy is affecting us all. And there's numbers out there of 10, 15, 20%, depending on the demand in whatever city you're in. And that's a substantial number for us that's being missed in this underground economy. And, all of a sudden this new distribution system comes out called the Internet, and, now it's not so much Airbnb or, Uber or whatever you want to, whichever system, distribution system you want to talk about. But these people are skipping the entire process, right? And liabilities and tax, the entire whole program's being, whether it's strata councils or whatever, are being completely missed out of this thing. So the tax dollars that go missing are huge, and same for us. We're responsible for trying to bring tourists to the city, and meanwhile, this entire economy, which a lot of people participate in for a living, and you're also hearing a lot about shortage of rental, people kicking people out of their units to obviously rent out. We had a chat with a chap just recently last night. He rented a house for $800 for a night. There was 15 of them. Shortage in the city of guest rooms. I can understand some of that a little bit, and somebody's making a benefit, but these people who are making an industry out of this, like the people that are buying all the campsites up and reselling them, and all these other type of underground economies, are really need to be dealt with.
And just to follow up, I see there's another speaker. Just to follow up on it, I know our staff is looking at it, and other staff in the region are looking at it, but with your experience in the industry, would would it be feasible for a city like Burnaby on its own to just get out there and identify these hosts and start putting imposts on that we think are appropriate? Or wouldn't it be more efficient that an organization like Metro Vancouver and at the end of the day the provincial government actually sets up rules and regulations and taxations and everything else for this industry?
The Hotel Association is obviously got their eye on it as well, as does some of the GVRD. Nancy's, the tourism industries group, is also working, trying to, but some of this stuff, you know, just seems to drag on because nobody wants to create another tax and nobody really wants to, you know, it's a fairly sensitive thing that people are renting these things out to try and, you know, subsidize their incomes, etc. You know, people are hesitant to try and get involved in this, but really, quite honestly, there's a lot of people in this industry a clean industry that count on this for their livelihood, and you're taking that opportunity away from them. And right now, we're doing really well, but this is a distribution system. If we let it get out of control, you'll never be able to get it back. So when hotels are at 60% occupancy, Airbnb will still continue.
So if I hear you correctly, and I'll close with this, if I heard you correctly, then you wouldn't be opposed if the city of Burnaby took the lead on the issue in the region and decided to do whatever, because it's a little disappointing to hear the fact that everyone is aware of what's going on, but nobody wants to stick their head out of the foxhole and be the first ones to do something. So as the chair of Tourism Burnaby, you'd encourage the city of Burnaby to get out there and take the lead on the issue.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Councillor Dhaliwal.
Thank you, Your Worship. Mr. Jaskula, Ms. Small, thank you very much. I see Tourism Burnaby at almost all the events now in the city, and it's beyond just your mandate in many ways, but you're participating in just making sure that you understand what the needs are of the community and also how it fits with the overall entertainment, quality of life of the city in terms of really attracting other people to our cities as well. But I was just wondering if you have any handle on the number that come from other parts of the country or overseas coming to our website and really looking for Burnaby. Like, I understand if they look for Vancouver, and our job is to promote ourselves as much as we can. So anybody who gets to Vancouver, they know about Burnaby, and they not only spend money during the day, but they try to stay at night. Do we have some numbers that we can influence who comes to Vancouver, and two, maybe even beforehand, to say, yes, we are here, and we have this much to offer in shoppings and in hotel and in the industry, I mean in the hospitality, other things as well. How do we track that?
Thank you for your question. I think it really comes down to making sure that you've got the right digital metrics in place to make sure you're where people are looking. Essentially, right now, the way people make accommodation, travel decisions, it's all online. And you've got to be online in a strong way. And that means you've got to undertake word search campaigns, digital advertising, where people, before they make the decision, during the decision-making process, and actually at the decision-making process as well. So things like TripAdvisor, which we're heavily invested in, and we do advertising with in Burnaby. If you go to TripAdvisor, there's a Burnaby page that's not actually managed by us, but we have advertising on there, because we actually can't manage that. That's managed by the people out there, the comments that are out there. So it's about making sure that we are in that process of decision, which is, it's clearly the way, all the research points now, it's absolutely on the digital front. And so that's why one of the initiatives that we had to undertake last year was refresh our website and make it as current as we possibly could, so that when people actually go to that website, the decision-making process becomes easier, and they decide that Burnaby is a place where they want to stay. Because we have full booking capability on there, and we've got all the information about what's happening in Burnaby, but also everywhere else in the Lower Mainland as well. The interesting thing is that, you know, Burnaby and Vancouver, for a lot of people, it's very seamless. for people who are not from here.
Yeah.
So we need to make sure that even people searching for Vancouver, that we are in those places as well.
Yeah.
Because it's a seamless transition for, not necessarily for us, but for people who are not from here. So we've got to make sure that Burnaby comes at the forefront because we're so centrally located, easily accessible, and maybe not as inexpensive as we once were, but certainly there is a value proposition there that doesn't exist in downtown Vancouver right now. In terms of the metrics, I don't have those at the top of my head right now, but I can certainly, as a follow-up, provide those. We have all the data from exactly who's going to our website, who's making those searches, and how that's all playing out. We know exactly where people are coming from. The level of sophistication now of that is very powerful.
It appears to me that there's a fair amount of success when I look at the numbers, what the dollars are coming in. It would indicate to me that the occupancy is pretty high. Is that just observation, or do you
No, the
really
occupancies
experience
are
that?
high. No, and I mean, even with the element coming on stream,
Yeah.
it's been very successful. Very successful.
Well, it's wonderful to see. Well, thank you for the support that you provide. You spoke about the Pat Quinn Classic. I was there a few times during that time, and I know the Tourism Burnaby was front, left, right, and center there to running that tournament. We've done all that work. You didn't have to. You could just simply say, okay, we'll provide sport. But actually, the sport that you provide, the human capital was important to see people, not only just say, okay, here's some money and fine, go do things what you want to do. So that's different. So that's, tourism is actually actively out there working in the events and trying to make success. I think the event success, that makes a big difference for an event like the Pat Quinn Classic or here at the Roots and Blues and Roots Festival, where you are personally there. So I think that's a big difference, a big asset to the community. So thank you for what you do. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. Just to follow up on the last two speakers, I'm just curious. I'm realizing we have two hoteliers in the audience, but does Burnaby have sufficient capacity in the hotel market, or is there still room for additional, or?
It depends on the time of year and time of day, and there's so many factors that go into that. But I will say, and you might want to add to this, but the addition of the 169 rooms for the Element Hotel really has increased capacity. It hasn't really cannibalized. I think there was enough room for that hotel to come in without cannibalizing everybody else. I mean, obviously there's some things that shift around.
Okay.
Could we have another hotel? Yes, we could.
I'm just
I have
thinking in
no doubt
relation
about
to
it.
population growth.
Yeah, I have no doubt about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Would you agree?
I would agree.
Okay, good. That's important.
Or a bigger Hilton hotel.
Well, I mean, you know, the beginning of the year when the Element opened up and, you know, they were getting their feet wet and started to operate, you know, in the quieter times, you realize there was plenty of supply out there for them than any developer. Because I was in Richmond when we actually doubled the hotel supply, and obviously the market didn't double, but it has caught itself up.
Councillor Wang.
Yeah, thanks Nancy and Eddie for a very good presentation. So Tourism Burnaby, I think it's a very good team. I have been involved with several community events. We talk about the proposed Burnaby Lake Run along with some local running club. So it could be happen next year, right? That'll be good. And also I got involved in the Canada-China Sports Foundation. That is the one targeting for the promote sports exchange between Canada and China, because China will host 2022 Winter Olympic Games in Beijing. So the good news we will share is the China women hockey team will be trained in Burnaby, probably in August. It will stay in Burnaby. So that will be very good news. So my question is about the marketing. So Tourism Burnaby, we promote, you know, attract people to Burnaby. Do you have some kind of slogans, you know, the selling points, like slogan, like Port Moody, they call the city as the art of a city, right? Do you have this kind of slogans, you know, to promote the city, you know, maybe the innovation city, or any ideas?
Yeah, lots of ideas. We don't have one slogan that fits all of the businesses or all of the different areas of focus that we have. We have very different target markets. So the sporting area, which Jennifer heads up, that has a very different mindset. So you have to make sure you adapt your communication accordingly. But one of the things that we've used for that is here to win. That's certainly something that's been a bit of a rallying cry, a powerful, for bids that we put in, proposals that Jennifer's been putting in. It's been very successful, and it looks great on the page, and it's been something that we've used on the sports side. Then from a consumer kind of traveler and also from a meetings perspective, you know, there's been several different verbiages or words. The central city has been one that's been used. It's all here has been used as well. So to say there's one, there isn't really one. And that's a fairly traditional approach to marketing that seems to be kind of going by the wayside a little bit. It's not real, and for a tourism organization, because we have to attract so many different types of audiences, it's important that we adapt ourselves and not get tied into one kind of, because we are literally the center of Metro Vancouver, so we can become whatever they want us to become, essentially. So that's my approach, and that's how I approach the marketing of the organization.
But we also, I think, center yourself in Burnaby.
Yep.
all kinds of different,
Yep,
around
all kinds of
us
different
being
ways,
central to the Lower Mainland.
That wasn't a very good answer, and I'm sorry, but the answer is we don't really have one. Yeah.
Well, actually, I was looking at a couple of things that I'm really impressed with. I've always loved your logo, and it is the epitome of simplicity. It is simply Tourism Burnaby written, but it's done in such a colorful way. I think it really, in its simplicity, it really gives a positive image of our city. But I wanted to refer back to your mission statement, which again should be an example to other organizations who are trying to find a mission statement, because again, the simplicity of your direction and your goals is opened up, and we don't have it in front of us right now, but maybe you can repeat it for us, Nancy.
Yeah, the dedication to increasing the number of visitors coming to our city.
Yeah, and it's just it's so simple, but it's what it's all about, is increasing the visitors. You know, when we put in the hotel tax, one of the things that I was most interested in was ensuring that hotels ran it and that the city was part of the system, and we've got Doug and Paul that are on the board. But this is run by the very agencies that are developing this room tax for us, and they're doing it in a way that over the course of years has not only benefited our hoteliers, but has benefited the broad cross-section of businesses in our community. And even more importantly, I think the part that I've been so happy about is that you consider your role to be building our city, to building up our capacity. And I watch as you work with not-for-profits throughout Burnaby and in educating and assisting them to be able to hold events that might have been outside their grasp without your help. And how you are making connections between these different groups so that they can empower each other, and how you're working with us to develop our volunteer base. You know, all of those things are, you know, building capacity in the city and developing a city that is more visitor-friendly, but with the long-term goal that our hotels will benefit as a result of having a stronger city. And I really appreciate that, is that you've gone far beyond the what am I getting back out of this, how many rooms am I getting filled by it, to looking at the very long-term gain of how you develop a city to be able to host bigger and bigger events, to be better and better recognized, and to help us build an image as a city that is very desirable for visitors. So I want to express my appreciation and my continued support for the great work that you're doing. Is that City Council is very happy to see this hotel tax used in such an effective way. And I know, as was earlier mentioned, your organization is out everywhere and very much a part of the community. So I want to welcome you, Scott, to Tourism Burnaby. I know that you're going to really enjoy serving on the Board of Directors and working with the people that we have here as members, and I know that it's going to feel good to be doing so many positive things in our community. So again, Ed, Nancy, thank you very much for being with us tonight, and keep up the great work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You too, Jennifer. All right. Motion to resolve into a committee of the whole. All those in favor, opposed, carried. And the first report is from the Planning and Development Committee, and Councillor Jordan, you're the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And the second and third and fourth report are from my committee as well. The first recommendation has to do with R12S District Area Rezoning Public Consultation results for the north side of the 5100 block of McKee Street. And the recommendation is that Council authorize a rezoning bylaw for the north side of the 5100 block of McKee, as referenced in Schedule A, be prepared and advanced to first reading on 2016 July 11th, tonight, and to public hearing on 2016 July 26th at 7 p.m. to rezone the subject properties from R4 Residential District to R12S Residential District, and that a copy of this report be sent to the property owners and residents in the petition and consultation areas. And I so move. And Your Worship, just inclusion, this is the final report of the whole series of steps that this street has gone through in the process of changing to R12S zoning, and they've passed all the hurdles except this last one, which will be the actual rezoning and public hearing.
And that's the important part, the public hearing, is that this is the 5100 block of McKee Street, north side, and there is an opportunity for the public to comment on July the 26th. And yeah, it's passed all the hurdles up until the public gets their chance to speak on it.
Exactly.
You ready for the question? All those in favor, opposed, and carried.
Thank you. The second request is for R12S district in Kincaid Street on the south side, and the recommendation from the committee is that Council authorize initiation of a consultation process to explore the desirability of an R12S area rezoning of 40036 to 40098 Kincaid Street south side, and that a copy of this report be sent to Mr. Nitin and Ms. Nita Datar, the petition organizers at 4080 Kincaid Street. And I so move. And again, the owners of this property have solicited their neighbors for support for a petition, so they got enough support, so that now goes to the next level, which is our staff conducting further consultations in the region before the final step, which is what you saw in the previous report.
All right, you ready for the question? All those in favor, opposed, and carried.
Similarly, we have a request for area rezoning to R12 district for 7335 to 7359 14th Avenue North Side, and the recommendation is that Council authorize initiation of a consultation process to explore the desirability of R12S for those addresses on the north side, and that a copy of this report go to Mr. Puri, the petition organizer at 4683 Kingsway.
Second the motion.
I so move.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded.
Similarly to the last, this is the first phase, second phase, sorry.
All right, you ready for the question? All those in favor, opposed, carried.
And lastly, this is a request for R12S for Bryant and St. Charles, Hambury Street, and Waltham Avenue. The recommendation is that Council authorize initiation of a consultation process to explore the desirability of R12S area rezoning in the areas bounded by Bryant Street, St. Charles Place, Hambury Street, and Waltham Avenue. And then a copy of this report be sent to Mr. Jose and Ms. Rosa Aguilar, the petition organizers at 6257 Bryant Street.
Second motion.
I move.
Second.
And just one thing to note on this one, Your Worship, the area map included is considerably larger in the consultation area because this area was subject to review in the Royal Oak Plan, and so staff have said, well, we better inform a larger area of the neighborhood that this is something changed from what was considered when the Royal Oak official community plan was done. So on staff's recommendation, the committee supported informing a much larger than usual area of this potential and surveying them in this instance.
Right.
Which we think is a good idea.
All right, is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, opposed, and carried. Thank you very much, Councillor Jordan. Moving on to the City Manager's Report, Item 1. This is to obtain council approval to award a contract for the 2017 Combined Sewer Separation Program. Question. All those in favor, opposed, and carried. Item 2. This is to obtain council approval to increase the existing contract for the 2014 Combined Sewer Separation Program Package 1 at Gilmore Lanes. Question. Questions called. All those in favor, opposed, carried. Item 3. This is a contract increase for the sewer separation program at Willington Heights. Questions called. All those in favor, opposed, and carried. Item 4. This is to obtain council approval to award a contract for the Wiggins Pump Station upgrade. All those in favor, opposed, and carried. Item 5. This is to obtain council approval to award a contract for the 2016 re-roofing program of various city-owned buildings. Questions called. All those in favor, opposed, and carried. This is to award a construction contract for the partial upper floor renovations at Bonzer Recreation Complex. Questions called. All those in favor, opposed, and carried. Item 7. This is to award a contract for the supply and installation of the council chamber audiovisual system. Questions called. All those in favor, opposed, and carried. Item 8. This is to provide council with information relating to the fire department's activities during the second quarter of 2016. Councillor Valco.
Just very quickly, the issue in regards to ambulance, the delivery ambulance service in the Lower Mainland is in the news again today, and this time it's centered around an incident that occurred in Surrey. But arising out of that, I'm just wondering if there's an opportunity in these quarterly reports, seeing how this is an issue, that somehow council and the public can be updated on the impact, the potential impacts, either good or bad, in regards to the ambulance service in Burnaby and how it's impacting our service. I don't know where they could fit it in here, but I think it'd be of interest to all of us around this table, and I know the citizens. I know that members of council have received calls over the past while in regards to what some people feel was inadequate response times from ambulance service. So if we can somehow, if it's not feasible, that's fine, but I just think if there's an opportunity to somehow include that in the quarterlies, it'd be appreciated.
Well, Mr. Chu, if you could have a look at what Chief Joe Robertson can do to, it may be that it will require a separate report to update us on what's happening, but, you know, I'm not sure if we're at a stage. I know you're keeping a watching brief on this. If there is information that should be transmitted to council, perhaps you could get Chief Robertson to bring it forward. Okay, thank you. Questions called. All those in favor, opposed, and it's carried. And the final item Building permit tabulation. This provides council with information on construction activity as reflected in the building permits that have been issued for the subject period. Questions called. All those in favor, opposed, and carried. Motion that the committee rise and report. All those in favor, opposed, and carried. Motion to adopt the report of the committee. All those in favor, opposed, and carried. Councillor Kang, you're reading bylaws for us.
Thank you, Your Worship. For the bylaws, first reading, I move that bylaw number 13624, 13625, 13626, 13627, 13628 be now introduced and read a first time.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, opposed, and carried.
For first, second, and third reading, I move that bylaw number 13623 be now introduced and read 3 times.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, opposed, and carried.
For second reading, I move that bylaw number 13614 be now read a second time.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, opposed, and carried.
For consideration in third reading, I move that bylaw number 13576 be now considered and read a third time.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, opposed, and carried.
For reconsideration and final adoption, I move that bylaw number 13621, 13622 be now reconsidered and finally adopted, signed by the mayor and clerk, and the corporate seal affixed thereto.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, opposed, and carried. Is there any new business? Councillor Valco.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just quickly, arising out of the discussion with the delegation earlier on, I'm just wondering, a question to staff in regards to this issue of Airbnb, and as the chair of the Tourism Board said that he's a little disappointed in the fact that everyone's aware of the issue, but nobody seems to want to take the lead on any of this. I'm just wondering if our staff, and I understand discussions are taking place internally about this, wondering if our staff can put together a report with the advisability and feasibility of Burnaby taking a lead in the region in regards to this, and if we are first ones out of the gate on it, maybe we can do some things that others might not be able to. So.
Well, I doubt very much we can do anything that anybody else isn't able to.
But anyways.
I don't know what committee would manage this.
Many, Your Worship, already, and I think staff have been looking at what other cities are trying to get a handle on, what the implications are, and what other cities have been doing. So, Mr. Peltier's nodding
why don't I
his
do
head,
this
maybe.
then? If there's a seconder for this motion, then we can refer it to the Community Development Committee.
Second motion.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, opposed, and carried.
And maybe Mr. Peltier might give us an update of what they've already been
Yeah,
looking at.
Mr. Peltier, do you have something verbally that you wanted to provide?
Just quickly, through you, Your Worship, there is an outstanding request from Council for us to research this matter, so we have been following up, as Councillor Jordan said, with what other municipalities are doing and trying to also tack on to research that may be being done elsewhere and then bring that together for perspective for Council through the committee.
I think, yeah, and I think you need to sit down, despite the councillor's request that we take the lead, look at whether this issue is dealt with best by provincial action that works across jurisdictions or by Metro Vancouver as a regional initiative. But I always worry when municipalities are going to try to act alone in regard to issues like this when they impact the whole region. So maybe you could open up discussions with your colleagues in other cities as to whether there's sort of a common feeling as to how we might initiate a way of dealing with the issue. All right, Councillor McDonnell.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind folks out there that this Sunday is the 13th Annual City Fair and Car Show on Edmonds. Starts at 10 o'clock in the morning, runs till 3. Edmonds is closed from Kingsway to Canada Way, and everything is free except the food. It's a family affair. We have rides for kids from 2 years and up, and petting zoos, talent contest, and lots of cars there this year. and we got a contingent of really nice motorcycles coming in.
And I understand it's very nice weather predicted for
Oh,
Sunday,
yeah,
too.
I guarantee it,
Good.
unless the mayor overrules me.
Councillor Dhaliwal.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just on the purple package, item C, this is for the clerk's attention. I believe the referral should be to another committee, not the Advisory Planning Commission. The referral probably should go to either the Access Advisory Committee or maybe the Planning or Social, one or the others.
Mr. Chu?
Yeah, probably the Access Committee, if you can go to them. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it might be Transportation Committee, because the Advisory Planning Committee generally reviews only potential developments. So I think the point's well taken. I'll tell you what. Why don't we refer it to both the Social Issues Committee and the Transportation Committee?
Sure. Whatever, I just wasn't sure that this was...
Committee do you chair?
I'm free. In fact, send it to Sab's committee. I ain't got none. No, I just wasn't sure that this is the right destination, Your Worship.
Yeah, you're right. I think it's better to go to those committees.
Yeah.
Thanks. Councillor Jordan.
Every time I drive down to Smith Avenue, that former site of that apartment building where there was a fire disturbs me greatly. We've approved a redevelopment proposal for there. It's a big, ugly pile of dirt for like 2 years now. And now the weeds are 4 feet tall. And if I was a neighbor, I'd be like very disturbed and want to know what the heck is going on. And we are the neighbor because we have a park right next door. So it's quite a mess, and I wonder find out what's happening and why isn't the development proceeding?
Mr. Chu, if you could investigate and find out and provide a memo to council about what's going on with that property, is even if it isn't being developed, it can be kept in a reasonable state of repair so that it isn't an eyesore.
I think they're actually using it to receive fill from other construction sites, right? As was happening at the Marine Pub until we got it fenced off. So it's not good.
Well, thanks for drawing it to our attention, and it's now Mr. Chu's problem. Councillor Calandino.
Thank you, Your Worship. And following Councillor McDonnell's public announcement of the event on Sunday, I have to do my own that's happening on this Thursday evening, and that's, of course, the big event on the Heights, the Giro di Burnaby cycling race, which is part of the BC Super Week. And I remind the staff and council members to make sure to show up by 5 o'clock there. The women's race starts at 6, and the men's race starts around 7:15. And I welcome everyone to come and watch me in my spandex shirt.
It is a sight to behold. That's right. Yeah, now nobody's gonna want to bring their children. And I wanted to just mention that last night we were at the free Vancouver Symphony Orchestra performance at Deer Lake Park. It was an absolutely gorgeous evening. I don't know what the numbers are like, Mr. Elmwood. Have you got any numbers in or estimates yet?
Yeah, the estimate was about
11,000 people. That's an incredible crowd. I know looking out, it was the best crowd I've ever seen for the event. The symphony was absolutely fantastic. The new conductor, Ms. Miller, was tremendous. And I know that everybody who was there had a wonderful time. It really is one of the magical nights in Burnaby to have that performance available to us. And last night we invited several guests, including the Deputy Consul General for the Italian Consulate and Consul General for the Japanese Consulate, and the Director General of the Taipei Economic and Cultural Development Office. Mr. Lee was there too. So it was a great night, and we invited a lot of people to come and see it, including some of the dignitaries that we wanted to introduce to Burnaby. In fact, I had the pleasure, as I mentioned last night, of introducing the Director General of the Taipei Economic Council to the new director, or the new Consul General for Japan. They hadn't met yet, so that event was their first chance to get together and talk. It was an absolutely wonderful night. Big thank you to all of the staff, Mr. Ellenwood, all of your staff over at Deer Lake. They did a tremendous job, and it ran so smoothly. It was without a hitch. So again, you made Burnaby proud, and it's one of those nights where we celebrate the fact that we're a successful city and we get an opportunity to be able to show families right across Burnaby classical music at its best. So again, a beautiful night. And with that, can I have a motion to adjourn? All those in favor, opposed, and carried.